Tasmania. Just bear with me for a minute while a few people sign on. I've just got to get my Facebook up to date so I can follow along with you. Make sure the volume's okay. Up to date. Yep, no, that looks okay. So I will just follow that along because sometimes the comments on Facebook are easier to see actually following on Facebook. Anyway, so I can see a few signing on. That's great. And Judy's there. Yes, I saw your comment, Judy, that you might have to watch this one. That's yeah, it should be a challenge. Well, it should be interesting anyway. I made this card with a couple of friends online during the week with Jan and Jenny. And as much as we've all been making cards for many, many years, we did find lining up all these squares a tad of a challenge. So when I said I was going to do it live today, Jan told me I was quite brave. So yes, when your friends tell you you're brave to attempt something card making wise, you know that you've probably gone to the dark side somewhat. So it's called a Z fold, no, pop up, because obviously it pops up, Z fold block card. Okay, so it's got three elements there, the Z, the pop up and the blocks. It's a bit like when you go into a coffee place and you ask for a decaf latte, soy milk, mochaccino or something. You sort of pile up all the names. Anyway, so this has got three elements were all in the name there. The measurements for all the blocks and the card base and the layers and the designer series paper are in the event. If you've RSVP'd to the event, they're in there. But I will actually transfer them to the description of the video on Facebook and to on YouTube as well. So don't worry too much about that. I have actually prepared all my layers and everything. So once you actually get in the groove of cutting them all, they all follow a lovely sort of mathematical pattern, which did appeal to my mathematical soul when I was putting it together. Now I have seen versions of this card where the blocks sort of come down the center, so they sort of go like a triangle down here. But I found with that it became a bit front heavy and it fell over. So I've actually quite liked just lining them all up at the bottom and letting the angle be at the top. And you also get room to pop a little sentiment on the top corner there as well, whereas if they were spread out in the center, you wouldn't have any room top or bottom. But as I say, I've seen both done and they must work quite well because I've seen both versions done. So let's get started. Oh, one thing, as much as I promise not to taunt you with new products before you can actually grab them, this is the Cheerful Daisy suite, which is in the new catalogue, which starts next week. So it's only less than a week away, so I didn't feel too bad teasing you with this one. The designer series paper is absolutely glorious. Lots of painted daisies there. It's got some dies and obviously some Stampin' and some dies there that I've done those two little flowers with, and some really nice sentiments as well. So yeah, and it goes really nice with this garden green white combination as well. Yeah, and I've used some retired ribbon there because I was just making this for my own purposes with some friends. I am actually using the retired layered ovals for my sentiment box, and I'm doing that with the one that we're doing together as well. I'm just calling it my silent protest that we haven't actually got a current oval set in the new catalogue. So this is me standing up for ovals everywhere. Okay, so as I say, I have cut all my pieces. And I'll just show you. This is the Z. It's actually, I'll give you just the basics. It's 8 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and it's scored at 1 1/4 and 2 1/2. So that's the basis of that first Z. And I've used white as my main colour because I thought it would be easier for everyone to actually see where the scores are. Then you've got the sort of the meat of the card is all these series of reducing sized squares that have been scored. Okay, so you've got, and they go down by, I think it's 1/2 inch increments. Yes, it is. Yeah, so the biggest one is, I think, 3 3¾ square. Then it's 3½ square. I think it was 3 3/4, 3 1/4, 2 3/4, and then this one was 2 1/4. But as I say, don't worry too much about the measurements. And they're all scored three times to form that sort of block look there. Okay, so what we might do, we'll pop this together and you can see how it works. And then honestly, once you've got the technique down pat, you shouldn't, a bit of practice, you shouldn't have too much trouble. I was actually using some of my non-Stampin' Up cheaper cardstock when I was doing this as well, the white in particular, just because I didn't wanted to practice before I went too far. So this is the inside. So what you need to do is put whatever you're going to have on the inside back first. So I've got, actually, because I've got white as my main colour, I've actually got a couple of layers there. I've got one of Fresh Freesia and one of basic white. You really want, I suppose, whatever layers you use in this back, you actually need a white layer on top. The topmost layer has to sort of be white if you want to pop like a sentiment or something there. Okay, so that's a layer of Fresh Freesia and a layer of white on top. But you have to pop that on there because this is our platform for doing the construction work that comes with the next one. So basically what you're going to do is take these squares that you've scored. You'll notice each of them has sort of like, there's a pattern to their scoring. They have a skinny ½ inch score, then they have a wider score, and then a really wide score, and then another score at the end, which is the same as the second one. So these two are the same distance. This one is the same amongst all four. So this is the front-facing panel there. Okay, so what you need to do is grab the biggest one, which is the one that's going to go in first. You rotate it so that the ½ inch score is on your right-hand side because it's going to curl under and down. Then you pop some glue on the left-hand sided, the left-hand score, and you bring that into and butt it against the front of your Z, so that the left-hand one, the left-hand side facing surface. And because I'm lining them up at the bottom, I can just quite easily just line that up with my table and firm it down. Okay, so that is your first glue there. Okay, so you've got that. Then you need to curl this under and glue it to the back. And that's why I said pop this on first, because you can't get back to it after you've started gluing. Okay, so what we need to do is glue that into that position. So what I find easiest to do is to just pop my glue on there. And this comes back down to always testing your folds. So we always need to test our folds as we go. Okay, so I'm going to bring it into a roughly square position there, and just give it just let it sit there for a few seconds till the glue just goes slightly off. Now that looks pretty square to me, but you know, I could be just having a bad day. So to actually make sure it is square, once that's sort of just gone off slightly, you just sample fold it closed, and the glue and the card will find its natural level. There we are. So that's that one. Okay, so that's our first block in place. And because we tested it, we know that that one's going to fold flat. Okay, next one. Next size down is this one here. I think this was 3 1/4. Same deal. We're going to pop the ½ inch score on our right-hand side. Going to glue. We're going to glue. My groceries have just arrived. Thankfully, Stephen's working from home. I'm going to glue onto the left-hand side one, butt that up against the last block that we've popped in. Just let it score let it cure off for a second. Line it up at the bottom. So that one's there like that. And then we're going to pop some glue on this 1/2 inch tab on the left hand side. Fold it around so it's roughly this time it's going to be a rectangle rather than a square, because it's wider than it is long, or longer than it is wide. Just roughly get that in a rectangular sort of rectangular sort of look. And then we're going to sample fold it again, and that did move slightly, so I was slightly off. There we are. So there's that one. So the fact that you're sort of sample folding it every time will mean that when you're ready to send it, it will fold nicely into your envelope. There's nothing worse than doing a fun fold card and getting to the point where you're going to fold it and find that your measurements are off and your card's not going to fold. Okay, so that's two down, 2 to go. So here's our third one. And as I say, it's just a matter of building up these little blocks as you go. So we have to put our glue on this one. It's a bit tricky, this one, because they're both 1/2 inch wide. So you put your glue on the left hand one and butt it up to the previous block. Here we are. And make sure it lines up with the ground as well, with the tabletop. And then I'll pop some glue on the left hand one. So if you try this card, I'd love to see what you come up with. It does, it's amazing. It looks quite like there's a lot involved, and it is a little bit fiddly, don't get me wrong. But designer series paper wise, I only used 1/2 of a 6 by 6 inch sheet. So 1/2 of a sheet to get all that, or 1/2 of a 6 inch, so to get all that designer series paper happening. So that's really good if you'd like to make your designer series paper last. It's quite a good card. So yeah, half a 6 inch, it's 1/2 a 6 by 6 is all it needed. And I've just test folded that again, and there we are. So that's our third one there. Okay, last one. Now this one is the fiddly one, because these are really little. It's like 1/4 of an inch, that end one. So we're going to put our glue on this one. Butt that up to the previous one. Now you have to be really careful with this last one, because your surfaces you're playing with are so small. So we'll then pop some glue on this left hand or right hand panel. Not that much glue, Julianne, it'll be everywhere. Put a reasonable amount of glue on the last one. Flip that over till it's roughly in line with itself. Just let it cure off for a second. It's important to let it just sort of sit for a few seconds in roughly the right position, but not too long, because obviously we still want that wriggle room that comes with our wonderful latex glue. And then we'll sample fold it and firm it into place. Okay. And there we are. So that's our 4 blocks of our block card. Okay, so as I say, just be systematic. Start from the left-hand side, work through, make sure all those folds fold flat when you test it as you go. It's been terrible to get to the end and find that they're all not going to fold at all properly. And then you've got that really nice, and it sits up really, really nicely because each of them is in line with the bottom and supporting it to stand up. Okay, so that's the hard bit of this card done. Hopefully you like that. Gets easier as you do more and more, believe me. Okay, so now the next layer. I've already popped my layers on. So there's a layer of contrast colour, which in this case is my Fresh Freesia. And then the designer series paper I'm using is the Tea Boutique designer series paper from the current catalogue. Yes, current catalogue. It's on special at the moment. So if you love the Tea Boutique or any of our designer series papers from the current catalogue and mini catalogue, please pop on before Monday is the last day of our last chance sale. So basically each of these just sit onto the forward facing layer, forward facing surfaces of our blocks, and each of them quite clearly corresponds to the size heading on down like that. Okay, so as I say, it looks really effective, but it was really only half a 6x6. Make sure I get my flowers facing the same way. Now you can be very clever and cut your designer series paper so that if you've got one of those lovely landscape patterns, you can cut it so that the landscape follows the pattern as it goes down. You'd probably use a bit more designer series paper that way. You'd reject the end bits, which I've used here. That's the next one. Yes, Krista, it is a bit of a practice one. I must admit, I made a rough one before the session with my friends, just to make sure I could do it. Being a tad obsessive, I don't like to do anything that wastes cardstock. So I had a bit of a practice first. But yeah, no, as you can see, this is my third, and it's not been too bad. As I say, it's just working methodically and testing as you go. And then once you've got everything scored and cut and scored correctly, it should all just fit together. That's the theory anyway. Okay, so you can see they've designed these measurements. Whoever designed these measurements has done it really well in the fact that when it's folded flat, that last panel, that last block just lines up nicely with the end of the card like that. Okay, so there's our designer series paper. Okay, so the rest of it is going to be decorated. I'm going to use the Dainty Delight bundle, which is new to me. I know it's been around for quite some time, but I haven't. I only just bought it because I knew it was continuing in the next catalogue. So yeah, so if you like this one, it is continuing next year or next catalogue year, so you can jump on and buy it. As I said, I'm going to use my layered ovals as a protest. The fact we don't have ovals at the moment. Could use anything really, well, not anything, but you could use sort of any sentiment box that you can layer if you wanted to have that sort of contrast cardstock behind. But you don't want to go too big. You don't want to go too high, and you don't want to go too wide, because it is going to sort of hang in space there a wee bit. So too wide and it's going to become a bit ungainly. And you don't want to cover over your beautiful blocks too much either. Okay, so a bit of glue on the left-hand side. Just pop it on, pop it on just the front of the Z. Okay, so you're not actually attaching it to the blocks at all. You're just attaching it to the to the front facing surface of our Z base card. There we are. Ovals are tricky though to check with it, to see if they're actually sort of up vertically straight. I find ovals are quite tricky because they, yeah, that could just be me. Okay, oh, and I haven't put the sentiment on that, which was probably silly. Okay, I'm going to be able to put the sentiment on, I should think. So I'm using the Dainty Delight, as I mentioned. And I'm going to use, I think, this little one here, The Best Is Yet to Come. So I like this one because it's going to fit in my oval. And I don't know that I've actually had it out yet, so it's a very new stamp set to me. I haven't actually had the one out that I'm going to use. I'm just going to check it for size. I don't want to go too mad. Totally agree with you. Yes, Terry, I think we should both have a protest about the lack of ovals. Maybe, hopefully we'll see one in the, I have sandboxed it, or I have put it in the suggestion box, but maybe we'll see one in the next mini catalogue, who knows. But all those basic shapes that are so necessary for card making, sort of, yes, thankfully you can always get them from, not that I suggest it, you can always get them from other stockists. Always seem to have one. So with the sentiment, I hadn't actually thought about what colour I was going to use for my sentiment. I might go Gorgeous Grape, being a darker version of our Fresh Freesia. Now let's see. Probably should have stamped this before I popped it on. In fact, I know I should have definitely stamped it before I popped it on, but anyway. So my little die cut here is much bigger than it's going to end up, and I've got a couple of little flowers as well. So they're from the Dainty Delight die cuts. So I'm going to use those. Eek! Don't get stuck there. So the sentiment is going to be at sort of like the top and over to the left-hand side a wee bit. Let's hope that works. That's all right. There we are. The best is yet to come. And then I'm going to pop another one up here, as I mentioned, with the way I've put those blocks on, you can actually pop another sentiment up on that right-hand corner as well. So with our little flowers, I'm not going to need all of this. This is a lovely die. It's just so, yeah, so delicate. Or dainty, I suppose you'd call it, because that's what the set's called. So I'm going to have to be a little bit tricky. I might put it there. I obviously don't want it all. I'm going to be snipping it away down here at the bottom. But I also need to make sure my sentiment is visible through the foliage. So yeah, that's pretty good there. I might need another flower now I look at that. So I'm going to snip my little leaves down here. My sentiment fits in that little gap there quite nicely. Like that. There we are. And I've got my flowers, so I can pop one flower down here and sort of cover up the messiness that's the bottom. And then another one up here. I might need another one. What do you think? Do I need another one, or just leave it like that? Well, it might be all right like that, actually. Anyway, what do you think? Another flower, or do I just leave it like that? Anyway, I'll pop the stems on. So just some glue just on the biggest pieces. There's some leaves there that take the glue nicely. No, what was that said? No, leave it. Judy reckons leave it. Yeah, you guys know me so well. I tend to overdo things, don't I? And then I regret it that I've gone too far. That's me. Evelyn would leave it too. Well, I trust your taste, both you and Judy. There we go. Just dabbing off some of my excess glue. There we are. Okay, so one flower on the floor. Where'd you go, flower? I might be cutting another flower anyway because it's just disappeared onto the floor. Oh, there it is. My craft room floor is relatively clean at the moment. So as I say, I'm going to cover over that slightly messy end with a flower. And then pop another one. We can always bling it up, can't we? Up here. Now I've just popped glue in that centre of that little flower because I do quite like the fact that the petals sort of poke up a bit and look a bit 3D. There we are. Okay, and up here. So we've got the best is yet to come. Sending love during this season of growth. I think that sounds nice. Yeah, what would you use that for? A season of growth. Somebody starting a new adventure or a new job, or having cut ties with something. Would definitely be the thing, I should think. Maybe post-divorce, who knows? Definitely puts a positive slant on something that can be quite negative. Okay. Now, I think I would like, with my other card, I actually popped some little flowers behind the sentiment just to not make it so white and bland. So I wonder if I can do that with these. It'd have to be very pale. Maybe this one here. It looks like, what are they called? Rose hips, something like that. Foxgloves or something. I might use that one. Which one's that? That one. But I'll do it in very pale. Very pale something. Very pale, fresh freesia. Yeah. Yeah. So I might just have that coming in from the side. Get a bit of ink off the stem because I'm not going to have the stem in there. There we are. A little bit rough, but that's okay. It just takes a bit of that whiteness off that that panel. Now with my with my gorgeous great, my darker version. Sending love during this season of growth. It's quite okay to stamp it as long as you hold your sorry, I'd gone a bit low there. As long as you hold your blocks closed, and they won't get in the way. In theory, they won't get in the way of your stamping. Probably could do that before. Once you know where you're going, you can do that first before you add your panels. But anyway, that's okay. Okay, so that's the stamping done. Maybe would add a little bit more there if I'd done it in the right order. Bling, need some bling. So go a wee bit of ribbon as well. Anyway, so we're going to use the opaque adhesive backed gems. Now these are, well, I don't know if they still are available. Somebody might be able to tell me, but they were an absolute amazing special when I sort of what's the word, stocked up on them. So yeah, they were absolutely, I think they were half price or something, but they've been my go-to bling this season. I'll just pop a couple of little white ones in the middle of our daisies. That's cute. And then a smaller one. There. How's that? Do you like that? I think that's very cute. Okay, so that is my, what did we call? Maca Latte Skim Mochaccino card, our Z Fold pop-up block card. There we are. So as I say, all the measurements, I'll pop them into the description on the YouTube and on Facebook, so you can do those. As I say, they all sort of follow a progression. They get progressively smaller. And as I say, if you just do it methodically, one bit at a time, test fold as you go, have a bit of a practice before you start, and you can definitely give this one a go. There you go. So if Jen is watching the replay, I managed it, Jen. You should be proud of me. As I said, she said I was brave to try it live, but it's worked out okay. So there we are. So hopefully you like that one. 31 minutes, that's not too bad. Anyway, so have a great week, finish of your week, and keep safe, and I will see you all again at the weekend. Okay.